Hello friends, and welcome back to Rachel's Baking Corner. Today we will be making homemade pizza. That means homemade pizza dough and homemade pizza sauce. And then the topping style that we'll be following is a classic margherita pizza. So that means freshly sliced mozzarella, freshly sliced tomato, basil, and Parmesan cheese. So without further ado, let's talk ingredients, tools, order of operations, and we'll get baking. This is a really easy recipe, so I'm excited to share it with you today. So we're going to be using two different recipes, one for the dough and one for the sauce. The dough comes from kingarthurbaking.com and the sauce comes from yummymummykitchen.com. So let's chat pizza dough first. This could be in grams or cups, whatever you prefer. I always prefer grams because it's more accurate. You need 2 cups or 240 grams of all-purpose flour, a half of a teaspoon to 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. I'm not sure what the differential is there. I just went with like a hefty half teaspoon of salt. You need 2/3 of a cup or 152 grams of lukewarm water. And then you need 1.5 teaspoons of instant yeast. You could do active dry yeast, but I think it might be a different measurement, I'm not sure. And then we'll need 3 tablespoons of olive oil. So that's everything for the dough. Obviously you could add extra flavorings to it if you wanted to, like some garlic seasoning, Parmesan, whatever. That's totally optional. When it comes to the sauce from yummymummykitchen.com, we need a whole can of San Marzano tomatoes. These are a product of Italy, and I believe the reason why they're a little more specific is I think this is a whole peeled tomato in here, not diced or chopped. So you need a can of those, and that is a 28-ounce can. And then you want a teaspoon of sea salt, 4 leaves of fresh basil, a clove of garlic, which is optional, but you know I'm gonna add that garlic, and then a drizzle of olive oil to just make it one beautiful, luscious mix. Lastly, let's chat toppings. This is optional. Top it with whatever you want. If you want just shredded cheese, if you want to add pepperoni, if you want to add olives, sausage, anchovies, pineapple, ham. I just love a margherita pizza. So that's what I'm going to do today. That's what I'm going to do today. I have some Julienned basil. I have some rough chopped Parmesan, so some big pieces, some little. I am not using shredded mozzarella. I went ahead and cut my mozzarella into slices. I could have done thinner slices, but I was kind of struggling, so that's fine. I like a nice cheesy pizza. And then tomatoes. You could do Roma tomato. That would be a little bit of a smaller slice. I kind of like the effect of a thinly sliced steak tomato. Just really pretty looking in my opinion. You also need a blender or an immersion blender of some kind to make the sauce because those tomatoes are whole. You could probably mash them up, but that would make for a chunky sauce. So I forgot to mention that, blender for the sauce. Okay. For tools, I will be using my KitchenAid stand mixer fitted with my dough hook attachment. You could certainly hand mix this and knead it with your elbow grease. It's totally up to you. And then I just have like a whisk and my spatula, usual stuff, okay? I will be using my classic oven. You could use a pizza stone or anything like that. So that's it. We're gonna get this all together. What I love the most about this pizza crust is that it is a 30-minute pizza crust. You don't have to wait a couple hours for it to rise. It kind of rests and proofs within 30 minutes, making it really easy. Oh, I should preface, this is a thin crust pizza, specifically known as the super fast thin crust pizza recipe on King Arthur. I like a thin crust pizza, especially with margherita toppings. I just think it all works together really well with that amount of ingredients all kind of piled together. It's fast, it's easy, it tastes great, and it's kind of fun to make, especially if you have kids or if you want to make it like a little date night idea. It's really fun to just get your hands a little dirty in some flour and play with pizza dough. So yada yada, let's get on with it, okay? Okay, we're gonna start with the dough. Yeah. dough, the first thing I want to address is that you need lukewarm water to help activate the yeast, basically. Lukewarm is like defined as like something you can comfortably wash your hands in or about 105 degrees Fahrenheit. So I have my water here. I just like to give it a quick temp check before I mix in my yeast to make sure I don't kill my yeast germ, because if it's too hot, it will kill it. So right now in my measuring cup, I have 109 degrees, but when I pour it into my cold metal mixing bowl here, it's gonna drop some temperature. So we'll pour that in, check it again real quick, and we're at 102, so that's perfect. Next, we're gonna add our yeast. This is instant yeast to the water. I'm gonna take my whisk and I'm going to stir this up. The yeast has a coating on it to preserve it, and the warm water kind of dissolves that coating so that it can dissolve into the water, all of it, and activate the yeast. It instantly smells so bready and delicious. So I'm just agitating it a bit to dissolve all of that yeast. It just occurred to me that this recipe makes 2 12-inch pizzas, so I will probably only prepare 1 pizza right now, and then I don't know what I'm gonna do with that other pizza. I guess I'm making 2 pizzas. I don't know if I have enough toppings for that, or maybe I can just make a really big pizza. I don't know. I don't have a pizza stone, so I will be using just a classic baking sheet, but never fear. I love making my pizzas rectangular. I love a rectangular slice of pizza, so don't come for me, don't judge me. That's just how we're gonna do it. So now that our yeast is dissolved in our water, we are gonna add, I'm a little bit of a mess today. I think I might have forgotten to mention that there's a half a teaspoon of salt and a whole teaspoon of baking powder in this recipe. I don't know how I managed to mess that up. So in this little container, I have my salt and my baking powder. We're gonna add that to our warm water. And then we're gonna add our flour. And then 3 tablespoons of olive oil. I'm going to drop the mixer down, the dough hook, and we're gonna whirl this together, all right? All right. This is just gonna knead for a minute or 2 until it makes a nice sticky dough. I'm gonna turn it up a little bit more now to get some more kneading action going on here. This is what we're working with. Not super sticky. It's actually a pretty good consistency. It's sticking to the dough hook and not to the walls of the mixing bowl, which is what we want. So that's good. Probably gonna give this another 30 to 45 seconds. Okay, let's lift this up. I mean, that's a great sign right there. That's a good sign. Gonna flour my parchment paper. Let's pull this out real quick. Okay, I'm gonna work this a little bit with my hands. I think the reason why I wanna do that is to just make sure it's not too moist. I wanna be able to work with it without it sticking. I feel like if it's too wet, we're not gonna get a good dough. All right, so this says, if it's sticking to your fingers, you need to mix in additional flour. So that answers that. You would divide the dough in half if you're gonna make 2 pizzas, but we're gonna just make 1. We're gonna set this down. It says pat it into a disc. So I'm gonna flatten that out just a little bit. And then it says to let it rest for 30 minutes while your oven gets good and hot. We're gonna let this rest for 30 minutes while we make our sauce, because that's the next step. So let me clean up a little bit and we'll get on with that. Now we are gonna get working on this sauce. First things first, we are going to separate our tomatoes from the liquid that's in the can. So I have a bowl and a strainer. We're gonna, you know, it says sauce in the recipe, that it's in a sauce, not a juice. And they're right, that is very much like a sauce. So hopefully I can strain this okay. Maybe I should have used a colander, I don't know. Let's just stir this around and we can get the sauce to go through. It's not that hard. Just hope it doesn't spill out the sides. It doesn't have to be perfect either. Ooh, I have just the tool. Hold please. This is to fish out chocolates when you're coating things in chocolate. We're gonna use it on our tomatoes. So we're gonna put our whole tomatoes into the blender. This is a Ninja blender, so it comes with a cup situation versus like a container or a pitcher. I'm not being super picky about how much of the sauce I get off. It's not a big deal. So I guess you could have skipped the colander or the strainer altogether and just used a little fisher outer guy, or your hands. Probably would have been fine. I was really thinking it was gonna be like tomato juice. So we have our tomatoes in here. We are gonna add our 4 basil leaves, our salt, and our clove of garlic. I personally like when a pizza sauce has a little bit of sweetness, but that sweetness is supposed to come from the tomatoes. So I don't wanna add some sugar right away. I want to taste it first as the recipe calls for it. And then I can kind of improvise that I need to after the first blend, you know? We're gonna add a little splash of olive oil, just a little drizzle. Put my blender lid on. This is gonna be very loud. And we're just gonna pulse until it's a nice consistency, whatever that means. I'm gonna pulse it a few times and then check on it, basically. It's gonna be loud. Let's see how that is. Let's give it a good shake for good measure. All right, let's give it a taste. Ooh, I love basil. That's stinking good. I think it will add a teeny bit of sugar. Just a teeny little bit. I'm an American. I like sugar in my recipes. Just a pinchy. We'll give that one more whirl. Good. Shaky, shaky. Ooh, you know what else would be good is a little red pepper flake. Yeah, that's perfect. Delicious. So that's it for our pizza sauce. I just put it in another bowl. It definitely could have even used more garlic. I want to get a little crazy and add like garlic powder, onion powder, all this stuff, but I want it to be a very clean, classic take on margherita pizza. So, last thing to do here, we have about 15 minutes left for our dough to continue resting. I'm going to take that opportunity to start preheating my oven and getting my pan ready. I will be using cornmeal on the bottom of my pan to keep my dough from sticking versus flour. I just kind of like that classic cornmeal on the bottom of the crust, and it adds a little extra flavor and some crunch. So let's do that, yeah? Yeah. Here is our setup. We have our cornmeal baking pan. We have our sauce, our cheese, some garlic powder, tomato, basil, and parm. And our little baby ball resting away here. All right, it's go time. Let's make this pizza. I've got my pan prepped with a silicone baking sheet and my cornmeal. I just did that to protect my pan and so my pizza doesn't stick too much. I've got my sauce, my cheese, some garlic powder, some tomato, julienned, basil, and Parmesan cheese. I've got my dough. We are going to press this out and make it into a rectangle. Maybe I should use a rolling pin. That's an idea. Let's do it. Well, actually, nothing's more satisfying than just kind of pressing your hands into it first. Okay, push it out. Get some of this flour on the rolling pin so it doesn't stick. And we're just gonna roll it out into a rectangle. Don't come for me. I'm not trying to make a round pizza. That's a lot of work. I like my rectangular pizza. And it's not even like a good rectangle. It's like a blob. It's like an oval. But it's good, okay? Just trust me. Yeah, this is way easier than just using your hands. And it's probably gonna be a little bit more even. We're gonna transport that to our pan. I think I will do this fondant style, where I roll it onto my pan. Kind of pick it up. I'm gonna shake some of that excess flour off. You don't have to be too scared of this because it's just gonna stretch more. There we go. And then just plop it on my pan. I'll fix it. Oops. There we go. And just kind of, oh, that's perfect. That worked out so well. It's a little wider than the pan, but that's okay. Good. I think that's actually the most like spherically shaped pizza I've ever made. The edges are nice and smooth. Usually it's like a mess. Usually it's like lobbed out in all these different directions. Okay, really quick, let me move this stuff out of the way. Let's do this. I'm so excited for pizza. All right, we are going to get our sauce. I just have like a 1/4 measuring cup in here to help me pour it and help me spread it out. Let's just start with like 2 of those. Maybe not even a full 2. I like a lot of sauce, so we'll start with 2. And then just use the bottom to just spread it around. I should mention, I have made this pizza dough probably like 6 or 7 times. This is a pretty regular recipe in my household. It's fast, it's easy, it tastes good. I've never made a sauce from scratch though, and I think I'm gonna change my mind on that because this tastes really good. It was really easy. I just had to use my blender. Like, are you kidding? Heck yeah. And you can add more sweetness, add more savoriness, add more garlic, what have you. You don't have to worry about preservatives or anything like that. All right, I think that's plenty of sauce. I'm just a perfectionist, you know this. Gotta learn when to stop. Now I have my mozzarella cheese that I've cut into slices, kind of thick slices. That's okay. We're gonna just plop that in full circle here. A little separated apart because the cheese is gonna melt and kind of spread out. I hope I have enough. Just barely. Good. Then we're gonna add our tomatoes. I'm just gonna set them on top. Here we go. Then we are going to add our Parmesan cheese. Some is really big pieces, some is little crumbles. I kind of like that because you might get a really nutty bite of Parmesan, you might get a really tomatoey bite, you might get some good mozzarella. Every bite is a little bit of a different experience. And then our Julienned basil. Just annihilate it. I love basil. You can't have enough of it. Oh gosh. Just the smell of basil makes me want pizza really bad. And then I'm gonna add a little sprinkle of garlic powder because fresh garlic is usually a pretty common ingredient on top of this. So we're just gonna put that on there. All right, my oven is preheated. I have my pizza ready to go and we're gonna get it in there. This is going to bake for 8 minutes until the crust is brown. I might go a little longer because I like mine to be a little more well done. Yeah, let me get a little close up and then we'll throw it in the oven. I'm so excited. Here is our pizza. Looks so good. Got cheese, tomato, basil, Parmesan, garlic. Oh yes, In it goes. Let's do this. It's pizza time. Let's do this. My timer just went off. Oh, it smells so good. Here's our pizza. Fresh out of the oven. Cheese is just spilling everywhere. Tomatoes got nice and cooked. We got some good bubbles and pockets. Nice color on the crust. Oh gosh, so excited to eat this. Okay, I know I said I was gonna devour this right away, but I am gonna give it a second to cool because there's a lot going on that's gonna be really hot. But I'd like to admire it for a moment. We've got some good crust. We've got some beautiful molten cheese. You can see some pockets of Parmesan where those big pieces just kind of stewed away into the mozzarella. You've got some pockets of air in the crust. The cheese is just kind of spilling out, which I love. It has a really rustic look to it, which is honestly what I'm going for. I'm not looking for a Totino's pizza. I'm looking for a classic homemade and made with love kind of pizza. So that's what we've got going on here. So I'm gonna give this probably like 5 minutes to just settle down for a second, and then we'll slice it and we'll eat it. We are all ready to taste. I'm so excited to cut into this. You'll notice I switched it to a cutting board. I kind of realized that putting it on my Silpat means that I couldn't cut directly on that pan. You probably shouldn't really make it a habit of cutting into your pan anyway, because it's not good for the pan. So I went ahead and transported it to my cutting board. So I'm gonna just start, how do I wanna do this? Just gonna cut straight across real quick. Oh, it's nice and crisp. And make this my slice. I'm definitely cutting this based off of what slice I want to eat. All right. Here's our pizza. Nice little rectangular piece. Nice and thin, nice and steamy. You can see the pocket of Parmesan and mozzarella and tomato. Oh, I'm so excited to try this. Let's do it. It's been resting for probably 10 minutes now. That tomato is so good. That sauce is sweet and salty and garlicky. Look at how steamy it is. That dough is perfect every time. I love it. This is a home run every time. You can choose different toppings. You can choose different add-ons. You can make it whatever shape you want. You can cut it in whatever slice you want. It's so good. I don't know what else to say, except for I gotta go because I have a hot date with this pizza. And yeah, I think you can understand. It's delicious. Well, I wanna thank you so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in to my little pizza escapade here. I really hope you try this recipe. It's really great. King Arthur has some of the best recipes in my opinion. And that sauce was a total home run. I love that, and I'm definitely gonna use that going forward. So thanks again for watching. Please like this video, leave a comment down below for any recipes you'd like me to try, and I will see you next week with another video. Have a great day. I love you. Mwah. Goodbye.